Ahlan wa sahlan. Welcome to the Oriental Café, a podcast where we will sit at the same table to explore the fascinating worlds of Egyptian dance, personal empowerment, and halas, life. I'm your host, Joana Saahirah, world-renowned Oriental dancer, teacher, choreographer, and author, the creator of the pioneering Joana Saahirah's World and Joana Saahirah's Online Dance School. I will meet you at the Oriental Café every 2 weeks, alone or with a guest, sharing intimate yet universal conversations. In agreement or disagreement, we will create bridges and inspire each other, because the world is only one, and so is our human soul. Ready to fall in love? Yalla bina! Welcome everyone to a new episode of the Oriental Café podcast with a very special guest. I had Jian Sakakeeny, and tell me if I'm pronouncing it wrong, on my list for a long time, since I started to think about this podcast and the people I wanted to host. I knew you were one of them. Not only because you're one of the most interesting, generous, kind students at my school, and of course your presence is felt in so many ways, because you are loving towards your colleagues, you are loving towards my person, our school. You're such a great, loving presence in our platform, but also because I know you are a very interesting woman. And in a second, our listeners and viewers, if you're watching this in the video format, will know exactly what I mean. So I know you are multifaceted, multidimensional. You do many things. I know you for your dance. I know you also do musical theater. You do pageants. You cook. I mean, what don't you do? My question is, how many things can you do in 24 hours? And how do you see yourself? How would you present yourself to our listeners?
By training, I'm an instructional designer, but I left corporate America in 97 when my son was 4 years old, 25 years ago. So after that, I quote my husband when people ask him, what does Jian do? This is what he says. Jian does whatever she wants to do.
That's a good answer.
So since I left corporate America, I have been natural healer. I had my own natural healing clinic. I have worked as an education consultant, bring Chinese music students to study in US.
Oh, wow.
High school, college levels, and graduate school levels. And I have worked as a liaison for Chinese music presenter, bring US music ensembles to tour in China. And I have also worked as a college art museum staff member. So I have done various things. But now in 2014, I just stopped working for other people and turned to things that I really feel passionate about, such as Egyptian dance and also Spanish study. So I decided to start a 10-year project in 2015, and found an Egyptian dance teacher and studied with her privately. That's Noahan Sharif. I actually drove 7 hours to her home in Pennsylvania.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and studied privately with her for a week and recorded everything, and just practice 5 hours a day. And every year I would do the same, just go there, because I couldn't find any teacher, especially Egyptian style teacher. So I would go to her home every year to do that and record everything and practice.
What fascinated you in Egyptian dance? Because as you're describing, you do a lot of stuff, even more than I thought. So you do things that I never dreamed you had ever done, you know. You have a very broad education, you touch in very different fields that are not necessarily connected. You are really like Leonardo da Vinci in the body of a woman, something like that. Now, my question is, what made you captivated? What fascinated you in Egyptian dance? Because I know from direct experience, since you joined Joana Saahirah's online dance school, you're not only a very generous colleague, generous supporter of the school, but you are one of the most disciplined, passionate, and focused students and dancers I've ever met. Sometimes I think, how can she do it? You know, because even I've been working in this field professionally for so long. Sometimes I doubt I would have that level of commitment and focus and passion. What makes you so passionate and so involved with this dance? What is it that is so beneficial, so interesting for you?
Okay. So there are a lot of questions here. So first of all, the reason that I became very obsessed or passionate about Egyptian dance is that I always wanted to do performing arts, but I never had the opportunity to do so. I grew up in an environment where entertainment was always, there. My mom was a professional picking opera singer. When I was growing up, even though she retired as a to make a living by singing, but she was still teaching and performing during the during the Cultural Revolution in China, and so in that kind of environment, I became very appreciative of performing arts, but I didn't really want to sing picking operas. So I was always fascinated with music, playing instrument. I learned to play flute and also dance, but I never really had a teacher who could teach me that. And so I kind of just kept that in mind all the years that I was living and studying. And I didn't really want to make a living. And also my mom discouraged me from pursuing and performing arts as a way to make a living. I became very interested in languages. I realized that I was completely passionate about learning languages. So I learned English. And that was a ticket, to get me to where I wanted to go in life. And so that's that. Why I became so passionate about Egyptian dance. The other question is how come I'm so disciplined? When I was growing up, I decided on three things. I didn't want to be poor. I didn't want to be dependent, and I didn't want to be uneducated. So whatever I wanted to learn, I wanted to have a formal and a comprehensive training, education, and also it just like it's something that I have to do to get really good at it. Like English, I learned English, and I was studying every day. It just very quickly I became a star in my school. And Jian, everybody knew that Jian speaks really good English. And as soon as the teacher asked me to read out loud a paragraph from our textbook, the whole class would be really quiet. And because I was studying every single day, and I would memorize 100 words every day. And right before I fell asleep, I would read them, and the next morning I wake up and I'll repeat them. And I knew that if I stick to something I wanted to learn, and on a daily basis, I would succeed. So I ended up going to school, going to college, majoring in English. I was the only college graduate in my family.
Wow.
Yeah, and also because of my English, I got a job as an English teacher in a college in Beijing after I graduated, and I also be able to work as a translator, interpreter in a prestigious hospital for students, international students who were studying acupuncture in Beijing. And because of that, I also got an opportunity to learn acupuncture and Chinese medicine, because I asked them not to pay me. Instead, allow me to practice, to study with them, sitting in the same class and to study with them. And also because of my English, I was able to apply to universities for graduate studies in US and Canada. And I was so determined. And so I didn't really have success the first year when I applied. It took me 3 years and applied to 80 schools before I finally, one school, it took only one school that accepted me. That was a Southern Illinois University at Edwardsville. And I got a teaching assistantship, and they allowed me to come because that included a tuition waiver and also stipend. So that allowed me to come to US to study philosophy with women's studies as a minor.
Mm-hmm. That is fascinating. What I really love about you is not only the passion and the discipline, is also the perseverance. And I think it takes a lot of, first of all, self-confidence, because if you're not self-confident, you don't have the consistency, the discipline, the perseverance. You don't have the belief that you're going to make it, whatever it is that you want to make it. So I believe that underneath there is a strong sense of self-confidence, that you have to believe in yourself, and you have to believe that if you put the work and the focus into it, things are going to happen. They may take longer than we wish. They may take more work than we wish, but they eventually happen for us if we do our part. You're such an amazing example of that. And you know that self-empowerment is a huge part of what I do. And whenever I talk about self-empowerment, there is this idea that you have to be confident, and that's it, in order to be self-empowered. But there are so many ingredients to that state of empowerment. And one of them for sure is that underneath belief that I am not beneath this dream. I am not beneath this goal. I deserve to achieve that. I deserve to go to places. I deserve, and I can make it happen. I find that about you very inspiring. I know it transpires to your colleagues very often because people pay attention. And sometimes all it takes is the presence of one person that says, you know, guys, I'm the reminder that things are possible, but you have to work for them.
Yeah. I told my mom when I was in high school, because my mom, I was studying every single night to pass in order to pass the national entrance examination for college. And she was so worried about me because I was so obsessed, and I was studying late at night, and she would wake up in the middle of the night and, saying, Jian, I want to make sure that you don't commit suicide if you don't end up, passing the exam. I said, don't worry, I will get in. I will get in, Okay,
now, I have a question for you, because I know you're very success driven. And you are someone who likes to accomplish things. How do you deal with failure? I mean, when things don't happen, because I've had this question thrown at me many times, and I train people at our school. I train students in private coaching. I've trained people around the world in big festivals. And very often people come to me, and by people, I mean dancers specifically, and they tell me, Joana, can I always succeed in what I do? Because you give us courage, you give us strength to go for our dreams. But what if things don't happen? Do things always happen if we put the work and the focus into it? And I know from my own experience that sometimes they don't happen. When we open ourselves to success, we also have to open ourselves to failure in the sense of things not going according to our wishes. How do you
Yeah.
deal with failure? How do you deal with not being able to achieve what you wanted to achieve or not the way you wanted it?
Well, as I mentioned, in the process of applying to U.S. colleges for grad school, and I failed the first 2 years, and I didn't get in till the third year, and so there's a saying in Chinese. It says 一鼓作气，再而衰，三而竭， which means the first time you try, you are full of energy and ambition, and the second time you get a little less, and then the third time you get completely exhausted and defeated. And that actually I felt just the opposite. The first time, I was not very serious, and then I saw all my colleagues were leaving one after another, and they didn't even speak English as well as I did, but they all left, and they all got in. And I thought, okay, I better take this seriously. And then the second year, I took more seriously, and I still didn't get in. And then third year, I said, this time I really need to get better at this. And then I got in, so I always kind of look within to find out what better I can do, how I can do this better, and also when other people, kind of lose hope, kind of gave up, like my mom, she said, Jian, I was 24, 25, when I came, I was 26. And that's for her, I should, that was my, time that I should get married, get a boyfriend, get married. And she said, Jian, if you don't leave again, the third year, you should consider getting married. I just said, don't worry, I'll get it, and so that's how
you like
I
the
got
challenge, right? I feel that you like the challenge. You like to be challenged, right?
Yeah, and also it's a growth opportunity for me, and I always examine what I can do, to make this work. And I think that's really, really important. Instead of pointing fingers, I always tend to look within.
Step up your game.
That's how I
your game. No, I mean, deciding what can I do better or more of that will get me to where I want to go.
Yeah, I think this is if I need to learn, if I need to grow, I just need to grow. I need to learn. And it's like the Egyptian dance. It's the same thing. I feel very frustrated. Sometimes I feel very discouraged, as sometimes I reveal that to you. I just don't like the way I look. And also I get criticism or critiques or feedback from people, also I have some dance sisters in China, I show them my videos, and they're very direct, they don't cover anything, they don't sugarcoat it at all. They just tell you, Jane, your legs look awful, your arms look awful, and look like no strength, no energy. They are very straightforward, and so I do something. I don't say, oh, I'm not going to listen to your criticism, but instead, what do? I took your classes, one after another, and then I will record myself, and when I record my practice and see, whether I'm correcting my posture, my arms are giving more energy, and I just improve. It's a growth time for me. It's not for feeling bad, and also feeling resentful towards my dance sisters. Instead, I'm grateful that they're so direct and they tell me the truth. And
also, let me tell you one thing. So I'm not sure what criticism you're talking about. I do believe there is healthy and unhealthy criticism. Sometimes people like to criticize for the sake of criticizing. And sometimes their critics can be feedback that we can use to improve. So there are two different situations, and I always say, you have to distinguish when a critic comes from a good place, a place of really wanting to help you grow, or from a bad place of someone who just wants to pull you down. And in the second case, don't pay it any attention. In the first case, listen carefully and use that feedback to improve. But there is another thing here, which is I've known you for a while now, and I've reviewed a lot of your homework tasks inside our school. I've seen some of your choreographies. And one thing that I've noticed is that you are very peculiar. You do things your own way, meaning you may learn whatever everyone is learning, as you should, but then you go about your choreography work, your dance, whatever you're doing, and you do it in your own peculiar way. And I personally love that because I know for a fact that is a creative person. And that's exactly what I believe we should be doing. We must use whatever we're learning. May that be cooking skills, a language, dance, whatever you're learning, and then make it your own. I truly believe in that. But that can also raise criticism and bother a lot of people because you don't fit the mold, the cliche of what people are expecting to see in what they call the business of belly dance. Okay, so I would like to give you a note here, which is a note for everyone who is going to listen to this episode, which is do not allow the criticism from others to erase your uniqueness. And this is something that you have naturally. Please don't let it erase what makes you different. Bring more of it to the table. People may like or dislike, and that's their thing. They have right to their own opinion, as you have right to your opinion, but opinions are not facts. Sometimes we forget that opinions are not facts. They are opinions. It's just a perspective. So not allowing others and opinions, trends, fashions, criticism to erase that which makes us unique. Which brings us to another question, which is, you are a self-empowered woman, in my perspective, in my concept of self-empowerment. But I would like to know from your perspective, what does it mean to live an empowered life? How does that look like?
For me, I think to constantly upgrading oneself is really, really important, which means you need to keep studying. And I actually, I listen to books and like this right now, I just subscribed to this podcast called Blinkist, based in Germany. And so what they do is they summarize thousands of non-fictional books and have people listen to their summaries. They call each main points, they call it Blink. And so they, when you first join, open the account, you'll mark all the categories that you're interested. I marked everything because I wanted to, it just takes 15, 20 minutes each book. I just thought, why not get familiar with the vocabulary of each subject? And, like a supply chain, business, finance, investing, love, romance, psychology, artificial intelligence. What the heck? Listen to it. And there's nothing wrong. I'm cooking or driving. And so I just listen to that. And it's not like I have to sit there and focus my time on listening that. So I just feel it's nice to keep learning and to know a little bit of something, everything, if you have the time, the energy to do so. And so another thing is that to be well aligned on all levels, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. I think that's also what's it like to be an empowered life, to have an empowered life. I do not think you can be empowered if you're physically not there, like you don't have the strength. Doesn't matter how wise you are, and how good you are at what you do. But I think if one dimension is missing, I don't consider that an empowered person or empowered life that one can lead. That's why, for me, to be well aligned on all levels is very, very important. And then
you're talking about the physical, the mental, the emotional, the spiritual, all aligned, right? All working together in harmony.
Yeah, exactly. And then this person, in order to have an empowered life, one needs to have this growth mindset. You need to keep growing, keep learning, keep open. My husband, George, always says, Jian is always in university. I'm always studying. Yeah, it's like my life kind of revolves around my projects. Every 10 years, I have a new project. So right now, I'm doing this 10-year project of Egyptian study and Spanish study. And for Spanish study, I subscribe to News in Slow Spanish program. And so I learn not just the language itself, but also about the cultures, the history, literature, the politics about various countries in Latin America. So when I go there twice a year, I feel, even though, granted, I can't remember everything I listen to, but there's always that familiarity there. So when I go to that country, I feel I can relate to people. And, because, I've heard about this street or this neighborhood or this genre of music or I know this author, and, it's just that familiarity helps me connect with the people and feel at home. Wherever I go, I don't really consider, only my home is where I feel comfortable. I feel comfortable wherever I go because I just decide to live like a local person and converse with the people. I love going to supermarkets, sampling their local tropical produce and make friends with the staff there, employees there. And they just love me and they give me food to try for free.
Yes.
Yeah. So
another thing that I would like to ask you about is the subject of generosity. So I mentioned before that you've been such a generous supporter of Joana Saahirah's online dance school. Very often you offer courses to your colleagues. I've met a lot of generous people in my life, but to be quite honest, I've never met someone so generous in this field and not so generous towards complete strangers, right? Now, my question is, obviously, generosity is important for you, but what is the pleasure? What is the happiness, the joy that you feel whenever you make an act of generosity?
Well, for me, I grew up with my very generous parents. So it's almost like a family trait. And we didn't have much money. During the Cultural Revolution, in the 60s, nobody had much money. But regardless whether we had money or not, my father my father was this genius, mechanical genius. He figured out how to assemble radio sets and TV sets. And also he always volunteered to fix people's radios. And so a lot of times he would have to buy parts for those radios, and he would never charge them. So because of his spending on things that we didn't really need to, we always ended up in debt. So we couldn't make ends meet at the end of the month. A lot of times my mom would have to pump up courage to borrow some money from our neighbor who had more money than we did. And so I heard a lot of complaints from my mom, but in the meantime, that kind of stuck in my head, that to be generous. We also had people over for dinner all the time. My mom, my father always had his colleagues and friends over for dinner. He was a great cook, so he would cook up a storm, and he actually didn't eat much. He was always looking at people, watching them with smiles and how much they enjoy his cooking. And you see, I grew up in that kind of environment. My mom was always so loving, so generous. And she would, if we have a dish on the table, and she would have us eat first before she eats. If once she knows, even now, she's close to 90 years old. And she would always say, oh, why don't you eat this, why don't you eat that, and I said, Mom, we have plenty to go around. If you want to take it, take it. It's so, or my family is just like that. My brother, who is 3.5 years older, very, very generous. Yeah. So
that is beautiful. And it also reminds me of a concept that is very dear to my heart, which is the concept of sisterhood and
yeah.
compassion and support amongst women. Now, we know that generally, when we hear about women with women, we hear about competition, we hear about comparison, we hear about gossip, all of the things that I don't like, all of the things that I never promoted in my work. As you well know, for me, it's very important to have an environment where women can be sweet, nice, supportive to each other, because I know this is how we lift each other's up. How do you think we can improve our sisterhood skills? How can we become better sisters to other women?
This is a really tricky question because jealousy is always there. The people, women in general, sometimes can be really hard on each other, even though we are, we should be really supportive of each other. And so I think, I don't know what other people would do. I just feel I need to start with myself.
Yes.
And so just be open-hearted towards criticism from other people. And also just be generous, and also let people know where I'm coming from. I think that's really important. That's why at the next local show on December 27th, instead of doing a dance the first half, I really want to talk about it, because especially in our group here, local, among our local dancers, there are 2 dancers who are studying dance therapy. And I just feel that to encourage others to have this connection on the physical, mental, emotional, and the spiritual level is really important, and not to feel threatened by other dancers. And it doesn't matter how good they are or how bad they are, if you compare yourself with others. I think the comparison always, makes people feel bad. And I think just be generous and start with myself. I think that's really important. Yeah. And instead of looking at other people, I don't know, I have no control of them. I have control of how I would do what I would do, and how I respond to other people. That's the only thing I can do. So, and
also
I think
very much focusing on yourself, a little bit in
everybody starts from themselves. I think that's really, really important. There's no comparison here. Everybody is unique. So I actually said this to a dancer who happens to be our MC for every show. And she was saying that she's also an actress. She said that she was going to do this, and like a Betty Davis. She said, "Oh, of course I cannot be compared." I say, you are a unique person, and I say you're a great actress, and you're a great dancer, and it doesn't matter how famous Betty Davis was, but she cannot be compared with you. You are you. And she was very touched by that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I think the main thing is that we just start with ourselves, like one person at a time. You can't really expect other people to do differently, and unless you do it differently, So I just feel I wanted to have this speech, because I don't teach. I don't. I'm not studying with anybody locally, and so I don't really have this uh, a group, like a home, that I go to locally. Except when we dance, then we get together. But I try to have my sisters, the dance sisters, over for lunch with me, like one or two at a time, and that's a way for me to connect with them, get to know each other better, and so because I don't want anybody to feel threatened or compared. I don't think there's a need for that, because everybody, I know this for sure, everybody is doing dance in order to better themselves, to feel better about themselves. Everybody is doing as much as they can within their resources, what the resources they have. Everybody has a lot of limitations, in terms of a time, the dance teacher I mentioned. She's also the organizer of the shows. She's so busy, and she's trying to finish her schooling as a dance therapist, and she's also working almost full time with disabled people, and also she does gigs locally, and so she's super busy. And so I just thought, it just good to let people know that she has a limited time. Everybody has a limited time, limited resources, but they are always doing their best, within their
let me add here a little note. I've been working with women for a long time, and working closely with women for a long time, and in many occasions coaching them privately, dancers who are professionals or who are turning professionals, or even dancers who just want to improve faster and deeper. And what I've noticed, especially in the context of private coaching, is that for most cases, for most women, you cannot eliminate totally the comparison, the envy. You can't. Also because society is organized that way, and society promotes that competition amongst women. The only real weapon or tool that we can use in order to become sisters to our sisters and not feel threatened by other women is to really become the best version of ourselves. And I know this sounds like a cliche, but it's focusing on your own thing, focusing on your own identity. Just as I was telling you, you do things your own way. That's identity. That's identity. That's an expression of your identity. I may like it. I may dislike it. Some like it. Some don't like it. That's indifferent. The case is Jian is doing it in her own way, independently of what others may or may not think. So when you turn your focus towards yourself, who I am, my resources, as you mentioned, and all of us have limitations of some sort, all of us. Sometimes it's physical limitations, sometimes it's time limitations, energy, mood limitations. So we're all working with limitations, and we are all working with potential. Limitations and potential. So whenever you focus on yourself and your thing, and you do things in your own way, and you're not expecting others to applaud you, you're not expecting others to tell you you're great, you're just doing your thing. That makes it so much easier not to compete with other women, but instead of competing, even stimulating them, supporting them, so that they too can focus on themselves and bring who they really are to the table. So I see a lot of focus on other people's lives, and with social media, that has become easier than ever. Like, people are paying attention. What is she doing? What is he doing? Where did they go? Where did they say? What about focusing on what you are doing? What you want to do? Where do you want to go? We have 24 hours in a day. It's not a lot of time. So put your time, your energy, and your focus on yourself and on your world. That minimizes a lot any sort of competition or comparison. No, there is another aspect of self-empowerment that I'm really fascinated by, which is the financial empowerment. And a while ago, I hosted a live session about self-empowerment, and you made a very interesting comment about financial independence for women and investments, and how investing and knowing how to invest can be such a powerful tool for self-empowerment for men and for women. What did you mean by it? Can you tell us a little bit more by what you meant?
Okay. Soon after I got married, I just took over our family finance, paying bills and managing our savings. Investing was a really new concept because I didn't grow up, with that concept. We didn't have a stock market. And so I had to read. I had to read a lot by some experts, such as Robert Kiyosaki, Susan Orman, David Swenson, former CFO of Yale University, and of course, Warren Buffett, and also others. And I just learned that investing is actually really magical if you start early in life, and you just put away a little. The concept is actually really simple, because if you just put a certain amount of your earnings, ideally 30%, into an investment account, and just let it grow over time, and then you will have a great wealth, but it does require discipline, because it's a small step, but has to be consistent and has to be over time. It's a long term, and also requires a sacrifice of a certain of instant gratification, which means you may want to eliminate that daily cappuccino at Starbucks, and also eating out 3 times a week. So the concept is really simple, but doing it is not that easy, because you really need to be disciplined. You need to do this, and also you need to forget about the big fancy family vacation and fancy car, and you just have to live frugally. And for 25 years, and until you reach to the point that you have so much wealth that you can live more in style. Mm-hmm. And even now I don't live in style. I just do what I want to do. But the thing is that once you have this financial freedom and knowledge, you feel really empowered and confident. And also the thing is that you can really stop working for other people and do what you want and what you're passionate about. And for me, it's the Egyptian dance. And then when you're doing what you're passionate about, you just become more alive and happier. So it just elevates your general well-being, and overall well-being. So it's not just like, having money, but your well-being, gets enhanced.
Yeah, of course. It's the freedom and comfort and joy and space that money can afford, especially in a world like the one we live in. We live in a capitalist system, like it or not. And there are many aspects of capitalism that I don't like, but I cannot deny reality. That's the system we live in. So there are very few things you can do without money, to be quite honest. So financial freedom is freedom of living the life that you want to live. I think that most women and men who think about investing, yes, they have the problem of discipline. A lot of folks have a hard time not spending on stuff that perhaps they don't need. They have the addiction of spending. And as you said, sometimes it's as simple as cutting on that extra coffee or not going out for eating so many times, or not buying so much clothing, or whatever we can live without, right? But the question sometimes, I believe, is where do I invest? Where do they invest? Because there's also this idea, especially with crypto, with these new coins, that people can invest and lose their money totally. It can be like a disaster, a tragedy. So I've heard friends commenting with me, for instance, I would love to invest, but where do I invest? Where is it safe?
That's why people need to be educated. Again, it's like Egyptian dance. That's why I said three things that have shifted my life that I decided early on. I don't want to be poor. I don't want to be dependent. I don't want to be uneducated. That's why I always take this approach to education as my ticket for whatever I want to do. Without education, you're just, you're going to mess up your life big time. You cannot, even when you, for example, I just feel it doesn't matter what experts professionals I'm going to consult, I have to know half of what they know so that we can dialogue. I can make an informative decision. I'm not going to just completely depend on you for your advice. And, I have my own brain, I have my own, and also a lot of things, I know that I have my own needs that I may not, wholeheartedly tell, to that person, because, I may work with a doctor, and if I have a condition or my family member has a condition, I need to know a lot about the condition, the treatments, and the medications and supplements and the foods, whatever that can help that condition. Before I talk to that doctor, I'm not going to go in completely ignorant, completely in the dark.
So that you can make the right questions, right? You have
exactly.
to educate yourself so that you know exactly what are the questions I should be asking.
Yeah. And also when they tell you something, so that's why, when I work with my financial advisor, our asset manager, and he knew what I'm talking about, and he knew what I wanted. And also when he tried to gear us towards the service that will cost us money, and I will say no, because it doesn't matter how good he says the service will do for us. Doesn't matter, because I know better. And that's why I just think to be educated is really, really important. That's why, there are so many books and online resources out there to study on, asset allocation, and also how to take risks, what kind of risks you want to take. And, a stock, versus mutual funds and index funds and real estate versus stock market, you have to have this, you need to take educated risks. You can't just take risks, period. No, that's nonsense. As you said, that's nonsense. You can't live like that. You will mess up your life a big time. So that's why it's important to read and to learn. And I used to hang out with our whole life insurance agency agent, and always talk to her. She knows a lot about investing, so I always talk to her about investing. And be friends with them and talk with them, and you never know what you can learn from them.
And you have to be interested, right? I mean, because you're telling me about terms and concepts that I personally would have to make a very big effort to feel interested in, And just like me, there are a lot of people who are not into money. They're not into investment as a subject. They find it a heavy subject, So you have to be curious, and you have to believe it is an important aspect of your life, so that you dedicate a little bit of your time to it. Because if you don't understand it's important and what it buys, you're not going to go for it. Now, another thing that has to do with empowerment, everything in this podcast episode is somehow about empowerment, is how do women age gracefully, according to your own experience? Because you're an example for me as well of a beautiful, intelligent woman who is aging gracefully. You're not allowing age or what people expect of you or don't expect of you to limit what you want to do, how you put yourself out there, the kind of activities that you do. But you may be aware that's rare. Most women, when they start aging, they start shrinking. And they allow external voices to stop them. You're too old for that. You shouldn't be doing that. You don't have the adequate age for that. You should stop. You look juvenile. You look Women report back so many times to me. Once again, I have this beautiful access to my students because, as you know, I like to keep it personal. So that means I hear a lot of feedback. And I hear a lot about people's private lives. And so many aging women, beautiful, brilliant, interesting, they allow the world to tell them, this is the time to stop. Don't embarrass yourself. You shouldn't be dancing. You shouldn't be performing. You're too old for this. You're too old for that. And I always have a hard time telling them how to age gracefully because I'm not there yet. I will be if I don't die young. But I am curious, how do you do that? What would you tell women who feel they are clearly aging, who feel the weight of other people's opinions on aging? What would you tell them about aging gracefully?
For me, it's a very natural thing because I never considered an age is something relevant to what I wanted to do. And, how people circle their calendar dates, like my brother-in-law always says, yeah, your sister always circle the calendar days, this and this. I said, yeah. And when you do that, if you live like that, it's very dangerous. You always give yourself a lot of circles. You cannot do this, you cannot do that. I never like to put myself in a bracket, even when I was growing up. And when I was in college, actually, she was my best friend there. She said, Jen, you always try to be different. I said, I don't try to be different. I'm different. And also my mom, when I was a teenager, she would say to other people, my older daughter is a conventionalist, but Jen is just the opposite. And I just always had my own way of doing things. I didn't really have toys when I was growing up, toys or a book, almost none because we were so poor. But I did cooking. I started cooking at the age of 7. But I cooked, I knitted, and I crocheted, and I decorated our house, 1-bedroom apartment, with my crochet objects, crafts. And I just all this kind of participating in life, kind of a trained me to do things very unique and creative, and look at things in a very aesthetic way. That's just how I am. I always find something as mundane as cleaning interesting and meaningful and desirable. And so I just feel, and so when I never really consider, I am this age. Sometimes, when people say, oh, Jen, you're 61. And my mom said, Jen, you don't look at it. I said, well, I don't feel it either. I just, I look at myself, I just are fine, and also sometimes I don't feel well. I don't default to thinking, oh, because I'm old. I just feel, oh, what did I eat a few days ago? What did I do yesterday? Because I tend to overdo things, like if I dance sometimes, especially in the middle of creating a choreography, I dance from 8 to 2 o'clock in the morning. The next day, of course, I feel, for the next 2 days, I feel tired. I crash and I don't feel well. And then I said, I need to sleep. And also, I ate at a restaurant, the food was too greasy, whatever, I kind of examine what I did and ate the day before, or 2 days ago, instead of, default to thinking, I'm too old. So that's why I do rock climbing, or I do horseback riding if I want to. And I, do artificial intelligence. I don't feel, oh, I don't have the memory, no, I do. I have a great memory, So, I just, it's just not relevant for me, the age. And
would you say it does not define you, right? It's not something that you think about or that is at the center of your daily life. So it's not a factor, right?
No,
It is
not
important that you are investing in your health. I feel that aging women and men also sometimes they get caught up in this age trap, also because they don't take care of themselves.
Yeah.
They don't take care of themselves. They don't feel alive. They don't feel they wake up with a purpose. They quit on life and quit on themselves very often for whatever reason. And
that's why you can empower the life. You in order to have an empowered life, you really have to be physically fit.
Yes. Yes, super important. Now, I have one last question for you before we close this episode. I had so much to ask you, but we will not have time to cover everything. This is happening with every guest, that I am hosting, obviously, people that I love, that I find interesting, but the result is that we don't have enough time to cover all the questions. But there is one more question, and this is perhaps a little bit selfish, which is, you've been at our school, Joana Saahirah's online dance school, for a while. And as I mentioned before, you are one of our best students. And I don't mean best only in terms of commitment and passion and presence. I mean the energy you bring to the table, the enthusiasm, the faith you put in everything that we do at the school. What has been the biggest transformation you've seen in yourself since you've joined Joana Saahirah's online dance school?
So, the Joana Saahirah's online school has been a gold mine for me. And because, first of all, it has taught me the tools and skills to continue to grow, to feed me, to continue to grow and move forward. As they say, you can give a man a fish and then feed him for one day. And then if you teach him how to fish, then he can feed himself for a lifetime. And that's how I feel. Before I started working with you, I was always frustrated. And because I thought, because I started so late in life, age of 53, and I just thought, it's not just a few moves, dance moves, or a few choreographies that you need to know. I think it's much more than that. And I need, look at the music and also the different styles, Oriental versus folklore, what's the difference, the cultural background, and all those legendary dancers, who are they? What did they do? Why they became legendary? And the rhythms, the instruments, oh my God. And, I just, I wanted to know everything. As I said, whenever I study something, learn something, I wanted to have a formal, comprehensive training. And I couldn't find that anywhere until I found you. And then I thought, wow, George, my husband, I hit the jackpot. I'm in the school. That's why I signed up for all the courses. I just couldn't get enough out of it. And so definitely that alone gives me the confidence, because I know that I am actually learning. I'm growing from a foundation, solid foundation. I'm not doing there, like a nonsense there, and I'm learning from the foundation, a solid foundation from somebody who really knows. And that was very precious. And that really gave me a lot of confidence, and also will feed me to move forward. I think that's really, really important, because I always, talk to my husband, and he always shares about, his teaching. A student, at some point, you have to be able to give yourself critique, give yourself feedback. You cannot, rely on your teacher all the time. But if you haven't learned the tools and skills to do it, how can you do that?
Yes.
How can you be independent? That's another thing. I don't want to be dependent, and I want to be able to give myself critique. And like if I choreograph one right away, I need to to get a coaching session. No, I can just give myself critique, a video myself, and say, okay, you need to improve here and there, and now I have the tools and skills to do that. And I think that's really big, very, very important to learn the tools and skills.
Absolutely.
And yeah, and the
Also,
foundation.
the critique and the feedback you offer yourself comes from a very different place if you're educated or if you are not educated.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
That's why.
so it
Yeah,
is important to know, what am I looking for when I look at myself dancing or whatever I'm learning? What am I looking for? What am I supposed to be seeing here? And that only education will give you. Okay, so that independence that you talk about is not the opposite of education. It's actually fueled by education. The more I know about a subject, the more free I become, the more independent I become.
Yeah, that's the freedom that the education the gives you. And I think that's really important. And also that will propel me to even seek further education, more training, just because I know, oh my God, I like this. I need to learn more, and it doesn't mean that I will stop learning. And that's just the opposite. And so to be able to provide educated self-feedback is really important for myself, for me. So I think, two things, confidence, because before, when in the 90s, I used to work with a Reiki master when she was training me and to be certified in Reiki 1, 2. She said I had an issue with self-expression. And I always had that problem, it's like reflected in the weakness of the lungs. In Chinese medicine, when you have problem issues like a weak lungs, that has to do with your self-expression. And so I just, like for years, I was looking for the way to express myself. And talking, has never been my thing. I just thought, that's not really my mode of communication, or preferred mode of communication. And but I didn't find it until I started dancing. And especially after I started working with you and learned all the tools and, and had this foundation being, built, as the foundation going up, I just feel, wow, my God, I can be creative, and I can really express something unique, and this is really my mode of communication, the way I exert myself in the world, and it just so valuable. And my husband, George, he's so appreciative of you. And after I found you, you're just such a big part of my life. I talk about you all the time, and a lot of times, I'm watching the replays or pre-recorded bonus classes, and then he would stick his head there and see what I was watching. Sometimes I had my tooth on, so he couldn't hear. So he would, take a peek and say, "Oh, this is Joana." Yeah, and sometimes I wake up with you, and then I go to bed. Like you're the last thing I see.
Oh my
so
God,
you're in my head, and sometimes yeah, you're in my meditation. Your voice is there. You're always there.
Oh, that is so
Yeah,
sweet.
it's a very precious, very, very valuable, and I think it's completely changed and transformed my life as a person and also as a dancer. I think that's really, really important.
How beautiful. And you're certainly on the right track. As I've already mentioned, it's so gorgeous to see you blooming and to see you putting yourself out there and making your stuff happen in your own way. Again, you're such a great student, but then you go about and you make it yours. And that's exactly what, in my opinion, what a creative person should do. And that's what I dream all my students will do. You know, I usually tell students, I want to give you as much as I can so that you are free from me. You don't
Yeah.
need me anymore. This is the mature state of a student for me, that I give you so much and I prepare you and I give you the tools in such a way that from a certain point, you don't need me anymore. You can fly on your own. And I know this is not how most teachers operate, but this is how I've always operated. This is how I've learned from my masters like Mahmoud Reda, like Suhair Zek, Inago Fuad. I mean, the people who really shaped me. And this is certainly what I wish to continue doing. And you are such a great proof of it. Now, I have a few recommendations and a ping pong section to close this episode, okay? We're going to go for the ping pong. So that's a fast question answer. You don't need to think too much, okay? Just go with the first thing that pops into your head, okay? Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So one favorite word.
One what?
One favorite word.
Serenity.
One favorite feeling.
Intimacy.
One favorite place.
Wherever I travel to.
One favorite song or musical piece.
Rachmaninoff, Concerto Number 2.
Okay, beautiful. One wish for yourself.
To be able to speak Arabic.
Allah, that's beautiful. You're going to fall in love with it because Arabic is simply the most beautiful language in the world, as far as I'm concerned. Go for it.
It's not logical for me. It's like a completely goes over my head, and it's just like so not logical because I'm such a logical and analytical person. It just kind of goes over my head.
But once you get its logic, and it has its logic, it's quite easy and it's very pleasurable to learn because it's a musical language. It's very musical, very poetic, very playful, very expressive. I am a lover of Arabic language, and I'm pretty sure you're gonna love it too.
I love it. I love the sound of it. Yeah, I love it when we speak it. Yeah.
Yes. One wish for the world.
No more plastic on the planet. On our planet. Yeah, I guess so paranoid. Every time when I go to a store, I see all these plastic bags that people would just grab to use. And now I just think I'm going to just bring my own silicone bag and put cilantro in there or whatever there. I just get really paranoid. And also all the meat consumption that leads to massive deforestation. It just makes me so sad, and I just want people to stop producing things and packaging, with a plastic. Why can't they use something alternative to that? Why do they have to use plastic? And all the seas and oceans are filled with the plastic, and the mountains of plastic, and the marine life, it's all suffering, suffocated, and I just feel so sad, So
now a few recommendations. One book that you recommend everyone to read.
I think The Road Less Traveled by M. Scott Peck. It helped me a lot. It's a psychology book on love, traditional values, and the spiritual growth. And I benefited a lot from it. So I just feel I actually bought one for my friend in China a few years ago when she was going through a tough time. So I really like that book.
That's beautiful.
And yeah, it has sold 7 million copies, I think.
I don't know it. I'm a big reader. I eat books, but I don't know that one. I'm surely gonna check it.
Yeah.
Recommend one movie.
I'm sorry?
One movie. Everyone should watch.
Yeah. So my husband and I watch every year for Christmas. It's a Wonderful Life. It's a Christmas, it's supernatural, American supernatural Christmas movie made in the 1946. And yeah, yeah, we love it. And it's just so uplifting, And so.
At last, one word that uplifts your soul.
One what?
One word that uplifts your soul.
Oh, confidence.
Okay. It's a wrap. It is a wrap, Jian. Thank you so much for this episode of the Oriental Café podcast. I am going to ask you to share the links of the book and the movie that you mentioned with me so that I can also share it with our listeners and our viewers. Once again, how proud I am of you. I know I've told you this many times, but I believe that it's never too much to say it. I'm so proud of you. I love you. I know you have a beautiful mind, but more important than having a beautiful mind, you have a beautiful heart, which in my scale of values is at the top, So yeah. Thank you for being you. Thank you for being here, for being such a beautiful presence in our school, in my life. And I hope to hook up with you soon. We will talk with each other very soon. Thank you, and I hope everyone has enjoyed this intimate conversation. And who knows, in the future, we're going to have it sitting with a cup of coffee in front of us, physically present. That's what I wish. Thank you so much.
I hope that day will come soon.
Yes, yes. And I will invite everyone to watch our next episode of the Oriental Café podcast, and of course to subscribe to our podcast newsletter if you want to be notified every time we have a new episode, and if you want to receive goodies that we will only share inside our newsletter. I will see you soon, guys. A big kiss, and Jian, a big kiss.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.